Thanks, everyone. It's nice to have first spot in the last session of the last day, so hopefully you got a good introduction or at least an update about the company, and then go have a nice drink to celebrate the end of the week. So I'm Sharyn. I'll be talking about the Buck project. Here are some cautionary notes about or forward-looking statements that I might be making, so of course, please do your own due diligence. So the Buck project is located in central British Columbia. We're a bulk tonnage gold, silver, and zinc system. We've intersected hundreds of meters of near-surface gold mineralization, 0.5 gram to 1 gram per ton gold, right from surface. So this is more of a bulk tonnage type system. But in addition to that, we also have some high grade, which I'll be talking about as well. The system is open in all directions, so it's unconstrained. And so there's a lot of exploration potential, not just the size of the system, but also on the property. We have 33,000 hectares. It's a very accessible property, road access. We can drill 12 months out of the year, and this is actually true because we are going to start a drill program in the next few weeks, and that's on 2 targets that have never before been drill tested. In terms of the catalysts, I mentioned that we are going to be drilling, but then as well we're doing 3D modeling at the Buck main system. We're going to be targeting some more of the high grade as well as testing the extents of the system just to see how big we can get things. We have not put a resource on it yet because every time we drill we keep finding more mineralization, and so that's when our main priority is just seeing how big this system can be. So in terms of neighborhood, we're in a pretty good jurisdiction. There's formerly producing mines nearby, Equity Silver Mine to the east. That was at one point one of the largest silver producers in BC. And then we have Huckleberry Copper Mine to the southwest. That's currently on care and maintenance. However, I believe they are going to be bringing that back into production. So we are in a porphyry belt. There's copper gold porphyries. There's a tech project to the west of us. Equity Metals, Silver Queen is to the south. So it's a great jurisdiction, mining friendly. Houston itself is about an hour from Smithers, so it's in a resource-friendly town. And I pointed out Blackwater here. That is, we're using that as an analog to our Buck project. So Blackwater has 8 million ounces at 0.75 gram per ton gold. So that's, again, a bulk tonnage system. However, Blackwater is currently being permitted, which is something that is quite unique. Some people say that perhaps in BC it's hard to get a mine permit. However, Artemis Gold is going through the permitting process right now at Blackwater. And being so similar to the Buck project, we think that's a great analog, given that not only does it show that a mine can be permitted in BC, but as well a bulk tonnage system can actually be economic, and especially with the infrastructure that we have at Buck, it's definitely a great comparable to have. I mentioned the road access, so we can drive right to the drill rig. So unlike the Golden Triangle, we can explore 12 months out of the year. Also, exploration costs are quite low. If we did have to use helicopter support, it would be quite cheap. However, we just drive to the drill rigs. There's been logging that's happened in the system, on the property, and so we can drive right to the site. So looking at the Buck main target itself, we've done all of our drilling so far here. It's a hydrothermal system. There's a lot of fluid phases that's bringing mineralization into the system. So the bulk tonnage gold, silver, and zinc is more of a disseminated mineralization. However, we have found some high grade. We made a high grade discovery in 2020. So that was 1.5 meters of close to 50 gram per ton gold. And then we followed that up in 2021 with 0.5 meter of 250 gram per ton gold. So at that time, it was very exciting. We were seeing a lot of VG, never before seen grades on the property. This property has been drill tested in the past, more of 0.5 gram, 2 gram per ton gold numbers that they were seeing. However, in the 80s, it was not economic at the time with the gold price that it was. However, today, a system like this could be economic. So it caught our eye, all the historic drilling, and we followed that up with 84 drill holes of our own for 30,000 meters. So I mentioned we currently don't have a resource on it. Every time we step out, we get more mineralization, and that's displayed here in this. You see the plan view at the top row that's looking down, and then the bottom row is a long section looking north. And what this represents is for every year, we've optioned the property in 2019. In 2020, we had 2 drill campaigns, 2021, and then 2022 as well. We had 2 drill campaigns each year. So we're now up to 84 drill holes, over 30,000 meters. And you can see quite clearly just how large this mineralized footprint is. We are currently modeling this. Right now, we're doing a structural study to see if we could maybe follow up some of that high grade, which is more structurally controlled. And so what we'd love to do this year is have a pretty aggressive program at Buck Main, not just step out drilling to see how big we can get the footprint, but also targeting some of this high grade, because it's pretty exciting to have a mix of high grade and this disseminated mineralization, and you need that size and scale in order to make it economic. So again, just comparing Blackwater, if you look at the size of Blackwater, you're up to about a kilometer strike length. That's what we're seeing here at Buck Main. We're now over a kilometer, unconstrained of course. And it's the same rocks, it's the same age of rocks, it's the same geochemical signature, same geophysical signature, and we're actually using some of the same exploration techniques that they used at Blackwater. For example, we have our technical advisor was actually part of the discovery team of the Blackwater Gold Project, and so we've been using his expertise just to help us plan exploration. For example, the connection between zinc and gold, there's a strong correlation, and so we're using zinc as a pathfinder, which is really useful for anyone familiar with doing exploration in areas where there's very little outcrop. You want to do things like geochemistry and geophysics and things like that. And so having an analog to go to and find that comparison of what worked and what didn't at a very similar project kind of puts us above some other projects where you're really starting from scratch. I mentioned we have 33,000 hectares, and so for the past year, we've really been focusing on what else is on this project. We have, it's in a great area, great neighborhood, a lot of other deposit types and mineralization styles. Previously, we could only just drill at Buck Main. That was where our drill permit area was. However, last year, we were granted a property-wide exploration permit. We knew that was coming, and so earlier last year we flew a VTEM geophysical survey over the entire property kind of as a first pass to see what else was there. I mentioned that there is very little outcrop, so traditional prospecting can't be done like other projects. And then as well, we followed that up with some surface exploration, so surface sampling, soils and silts and rocks. And then for two of these targets we found quite interesting, we followed that up with a ground IP, so that's induced polarization geophysics, which is looking for things like sulfides. And we actually moved two of these targets to drill ready stage. That'll be Irk and Eagle Eye, which I'm going to talk about. We had a release a few weeks ago announcing that we would be drilling these targets this quarter. These have never before been drill tested, so they're blind targets, really grassroots exploration. However, we have a whole pipeline of targets now on the property. So in addition to the mineralization at Buck Main, it's going to be really exciting to see what else is on this property because it's in a really great area. So in terms of the Irk Target, if you look at the inset map there, you can see that red area, that's a geochemical anomaly. At the scale bar there, that's about 2 kilometers. So it was kind of looking like, looking for a needle in a haystack. Where would you put a drill hole there? So we needed some follow-up work. We did the ground IP, which you can see in the big map there. Red obviously is an anomaly, so this is the chargeability. So the red is a chargeability high. That denotes the potential for sulfides. In addition, we were able to come up with some structural lineaments, which as well could have some kind of controls on mineralization. So we came up with 3 areas that was based on the geophysics, and then as well as the geochemistry. We have some rock samples with some pretty anomalous values, over 1% zinc, and silver and copper, 2.4% copper as well. So it's looking like from the rock samples, this could be maybe an epithermal vein system. It doesn't look exactly like Buck Main. However, we're at the point now where really the exploration is going to be with the drill bit. Let's see what's there. Let's put in a few holes, see what we find, and then continue drilling more holes if we like what we see. So it's going to be a pretty fluid program, but pretty exciting as well. And then with Eagle Eye, the IP geophysics shows a very clear chargeability high. There could be a concealed porphyry here. There's not a lot of surface geochemistry. That was anomalous, but it's going to be a great drill target. Obviously, there's something in the ground, so let's put in a few drill holes and see just what the potential could be. In addition, just to the west of Buck, Maine, we have what we're calling the Silverthorne Target. So this could be an extension of the Buck, Maine system. What we're seeing at Buck, Maine is kind of a northwest-northwest trend of the mineralization. We're seeing that in structures and veins and things like that. And along trend, we're seeing some mineralization in the rocks. As the rock samples, you can see 633 gram per ton silver. As well, we have copper and zinc. So these are some pretty exciting rock samples that we're finding. And again, this area has not been drill tested, and it's a long strike to a place that we know there's mineralization. So this is another exciting target. Most likely, we'll have to do some IP on it in order to figure out and vector into more specific drill locations. But this is definitely on our radar as well. So in terms of share structure, we're sitting at about 77 million shares outstanding. We're at about 10 million market cap. We were trading, I think today it's 13 or 13 and a half cents. We have about 2 million in the bank. We will begin drilling with that. So it's not holding us back. We are going to do an exploration program at Irk and Eagle Eye while we're still modeling Buck, Maine and getting ready for a more aggressive program down the road. In terms of ownership, about 11% is insider ownership. This is mostly our chairman, Tukey Angus. Him and Bob Willis started the company in 2005. It was known as San Marco Resources. We had copper projects in Mexico. Those copper assets were recently sold to a private company called Green Earth Metals, and they plan to go public. I'm not really sure their time frame, but that would give us some exposure to the copper commodities, as we'd be a significant shareholder of that company. High net worth includes the property vendor. So this is an option property. We're in the 4th year of a 5-year earn-in agreement. The vendor of the property owns about 8%. Most of the option agreement was in shares as opposed to cash. He really believes in the project and wanted, a piece of the potential that is really here. He really believes in this project, that it's going to become a mine. And then the rest, retail. Institutional as well. A lot came in through our last financing in March. Good volume as well, about 200,000 a day. So I mentioned the board, Tukey Angus, I'm president, and we have a very great technical team as well as corporate support. So we're in a great mining-friendly region, easily accessible, 12 months, 12 months out of the year we can access for drilling. We have a drill program starting very shortly, and then as well we're planning additional drilling at Buck, Maine just to see how big we can get this. So I think we're at a great point of the company. It's a turning point where we're not turning our back at Buck, Maine, but we want to see what other potential is there on the property. It's in a great neighborhood. We're really open-minded in terms of mineralization style deposit type commodity. So let's just see what's out there, and we'll continue to share what we're finding with the market. So that's about it.
Great, thank you very much, Sharyn. Any questions from the floor? No, I think you covered it all. So, Sharyn, Buck's a pretty large project, and you've had some success over the last couple of years, namely the high grade in there. How do you go about prioritizing your exploration? Whether it's bulk tonnage versus high grade, or whether it's resource delineation versus going after new targets like Irk?
Yeah, so in terms of with Buck, Maine, we have thought about several times doing a resource estimate. We think, at some point it'd be great to have some numbers as to how much, is actually there. However, every time we drill, we get more mineralization, and so I think we'd be doing a disservice to ourselves if we did kind of constrain it by putting a resource on it. So we'd like to continue drilling. In terms of the upside, it's really looking at all the different layers of exploration data. So it's the geophysics, it's the geochemistry. We don't have a lot of outcrop, and so we have to rely on all these different data layers in order to prioritize and rank some of these targets. And we have a really great technical team, I think, that can go through all the different data sets and come up with some priorities.
Yeah, I think you half answered my next question, that resource estimate, so you're sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly,
Some people say, put a pin in it now, we know there's upside, but it helps us value it now.
Exactly. Well, you look at Great Bear Resources, they never had a resource. So, I mean, not to compare us with them, but you don't necessarily need to put out a resource if we share the information of what we have. I think people can put together their own ideas, but we would like to keep drilling and just seeing how big we can get this before we, put that constraint on it.
Right. And I guess when you're modeling this thing, do you see the disseminated and the high grade as being related at Buck?
I would say not really. So the disseminated mineralization, the fluids come into the more porous rock, and so that's when you get the dissemination throughout the rock, and it's more of that large scale. However, the vein-hosted high grade, it's more structurally controlled, and it's in a different rock type entirely. The problem with the whole system is it's very complex. So we're still modeling the geology and the mineralization and the structures. Every time we drill, we learn something new. So it's not a simple system, which I think, will definitely frustrates the technical team, and I'm sure it frustrates the shareholders as well. It's a good problem to have, that we have a lot of mineralization, but actually figuring out where it's going and the direction and the trend, that every time we drill, we learn something new.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, sure. What's your current ownership in the property and the terms? You said you're a 4 out of 5 year term on it.
Yeah, I don't think I actually have that in here. So the current terms were, I believe, at shares, 1.9 million shares paid out already, and I think $300,000. It's very share heavy. Personally? No. Oh. It's 100% optioned right now. Yeah. But yeah, the earn-in agreement we have 100% control though. We fully manage the property, and we will go into 100% ownership as soon as we go through the 5th year of the option agreement.
Okay. Maybe one last question here. You talked about permitting in BC and how it can be done. How about social license? How active have you been with local stakeholders?
I think the world has changed, especially in BC, where you can't really go through the permitting, staking process without engaging with local communities and Indigenous groups. We knew that early, and so we did early engagement. We reached out to all the different groups. I think mostly they just want a seat at the table. They want to be kept involved. It's not a situation where they're against resource development. Most of the companies, there's a lot of Indigenous-owned companies as well that want to have some potential to participate on the project. So for us, it's been pretty easy in terms of the early engagement and just keeping communication open. And I don't think it's a problem. However, if you don't do that early engagement, perhaps you'd run into problems down the road.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thanks.